Anyway, this is, and for you folks who were on the other buses, you didn't get to hear me share the experience of the roads coming in, and we used to have to drive the four-wheel drive tractors in, and I built platforms on the back of the three-point hitch to load the diesel barrels to bring diesel into the cats, because I had two D8s in here clearing the land and building the reservoirs, and so it was a hard time. Floyd walked the D7 in here for me December of 1908. Shoot, I'm good. They thought I did this in 7 years. In December 2006, then we went home for Christmas, and I came back and started clearing land January of 07. So this has evolved since 2000, January of 07. Wow. But where the roof of the brick factory is right there, that's where Floyd came out of the brush with the D7, and then he went across to where the sprinkler is over there and into a ravine, and that's where we parked it for that night. And so for Floyd to come now and see it, it's a little bit of a change. But before Floyd was here and before I bought the D7 and brought in to start construction, I brought Mary here after we finally got because it was just a goat trail coming in here originally, or a donkey trail, and the people would come in and cut wood and take it out, because one of the things that the people do in the jungle like this is they cut wood and they burn it and they make charcoal and then take it and sell it at the store or trade it for food. So like Panchito, who is my field worker, his average yearly income from making charcoal and trading in the store was $300 a year. He had a family of 5. And so that was why the donkey trail was here, and they'd also come in and hunt, because there's a lot of wild boar there were on the farm. I've seen 2 black bear on the farm, and I've seen 2 black panther here on the farm. Wow. And I've seen 1, I'm not sure if it was an anaconda or a boa, but it was over 30 feet long.
Oh my God.
And it was over 14 inches around in diameter, and I thought it was a log when I saw it the first time. Realized that wasn't a log to go sit on. But we've seen a lot of boas here, 10, 15 feet long. There's been a lot of poison. There was a lot of poison snakes we had a problem with. And they just called it an eckie, a 3X eckie, which was 6, 8 feet long, deadly poison. The coral snakes would get up on the equipment at night when we'd park the equipment. So it was always checking the equipment in the morning to make sure there was no snake sitting on your seat when you got in. But as we've cleared the land and developed it, the snakes have receded, and we haven't seen a snake for the last 3 years. But anyway, after we opened it up, the road with machetes where we could get in with 4-wheel drives, then I brought Mary in. And we parked right where the brick factory was, because this was just, if you look behind you to the trees, that's what it all looked like, and worse. And I came up here because there was a little bit of a clearing, and enough that you could see across, and you could see the rolling hills. And I stood here, and I'm all excited about this homestead. And I said, honey, what do you think? Isn't it beautiful? And she didn't say anything. And she's kind of looking around, and I'm already daydreaming, you know. And I started telling her, I says, and that hill over there, that's where I'm going to put the distillery, and this is going to be the Dorado Sul field, and I'm explaining everything to her, and she's just quiet. She's not saying a word. And I turned and looked back, and tears were... She had leaky eye syndrome. and I said, honey, what's wrong? And she says, just shook her head, and she said, Gary, where are you going to farm? Well, right here. She says, you've got to be joking. Have you lost your ever-living mind? And I said, no, honey, can't you see it? So since then, this has been called Emotional Hill. So we shared a few little discussions as I tried to paint the picture for her. And she tells the story. She says, you know, my biggest challenge with Gary is he gets an idea and already sees it done, and I'm still trying to see it. But that's what makes this so strong, is because she deals with the other side of life that I call stress. She calls it reality. But, you know, this is, it's all about dreaming, and you're going to get to come to the farm in Peru, and Jay has seen it. I'm really excited that Jay has seen the farm in Peru. He saw it from the air because it's 9 kilometers to get to it, and there's no road. And we're right now in the process of building the road into it. And we flew it 3 months ago in a helicopter, and just jungle canopy. And you'll get to see that in the infantile and watch it evolve too. So this was an interesting project in so many ways, because if you can imagine, I spent a year here before Mary and the boys moved down, and it was kind of a challenging time for all of us. And she would ask me over and over and over, you know, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And there's a lot of times I couldn't tell her why. I just felt like I had to do it, and I tell her, I said, I feel like I'm being pushed. And I says, that's all I can tell you. And she says, well, that's not a good enough answer. And I says, well, it's going to have to do for now. You know, take some more peace and calming or Rutavala and, you know, just write it out with me. But I could see it, and I see what this was going to evolve into, and it has, and it's continuing, growing and evolving each and every day. It's a challenge working with people when you don't speak the language, and you're working with a culture that's totally different than your own, and your work ethics and all those things. It's become a challenge, but, you know, we're all God's people, and sometimes it's hard for us to step out of our own stuff and realize that, and try to work in that vein. But the other thing that happened on this hill that added to the emotion is a couple of weeks after I'd brought Mary out, I came out with Gabrielle because I'd been chopping with the machete. I'd come on Sundays after making my rounds with the patient at the clinic, and I'd walk the property lines and cutting the property lines out so we could start building fence. And so I brought Gabriel out with me one day because he wanted to see what we were doing, and 9 men came out of the brush. We were standing just about in the same spot. 9 men came out of the brush and walked up towards us, and they had machetes and rifles. And they pointed them at me and told me to get off their land and go back to America, that you gringo, you're not wanted here. And they threatened to shoot me, and I just stood. And Gabriel says, Dr. Young, because he was translating, he says, Dr. Young, we got to go. And I said, we're not going anywhere, Gabriel. And he said, they're going to shoot you. And I said, well, then they'll have to shoot me, but I'm not going anywhere. I said, I bought this land, and I'm here to develop it. Yeah. And they kept walking up to me, and they come up to me just about as far as this pretty little lady in the pink shirt there, and stopped. And they're yelling at me, and Gabriel's translating, and he's backing up. And I reached back, and I grabbed his arm, and I said, you come here. And I pulled him up beside me, and he says, Doctor, what are you doing? And I said, tell him that either he shoots me or I'm going to take that gun and beat him with it. Gabriel, he says, are you nuts? And I says, tell him. And you tell him exactly what I said. And as he started saying it, I started walking towards him. And he just stood there with the gun at me. And I said, Gabriel, tell him again, because I'm going to grab that gun in 5 seconds. And I said, I'm going to work him over. And at that moment, I grabbed the gun barrel and jerked it out of his hands and held it up like a club. And I said, now, either get off my land, and if I ever see you on my property again, I will shoot you. And I will bury you right here and make fertilizer for the plants. I said, now get off my land, you're trespassing. That one man in that group is my field manager today.
Wow, what a story.
You know, it's, and all it was, it was a bluff, but that's how they dealt with foreigners. And, you know, when they realized that I wasn't backing down even from a pointed gun, then they realized that they weren't dealing with a normal person. So, never be accused of that. Oh, it has been a challenge, and Then the next year after I was developing this, I was at the distillery working, and I saw this four-wheeler come out in the field and went over and was talking to the distributors, and I saw hands waving, flying. So I jumped on the four-wheeler as he was coming back, and I cut him off right where the bus is at, and he jumped out of his truck and pulled a 9mm on me. And same thing, I'm going to shoot you if you don't leave and go back to America. We don't want you here in our country. And I grabbed the gun out of his hands, and anyway, he left, and I wound up with a gun. So it was challenges. 3 years ago, the last incident we had was I got a phone call, and I had 3 employees at the gate, and they were trying to get out, and the gate was barricaded, and there was 110 people there that was coming to take the farm. And so they had trucks at the gate. They couldn't get out. They had beat them with some sticks. They'd finally got back in there, 3 pickups, and locked the doors. I jumped on the backhoe because somebody had my pickup. I don't know where it was. And I jumped on the backhoe and drove it out, told the guards it was there. I said, open the gate. And he opened the gate, and there was 2 big freight trucks, not big freight trucks, but like 10-ton trucks parked there, side by side, so nobody could go through. And I just put the bucket down and picked them up and just shoved them across the road, and they jumped up on the backhoe and started beating me with sticks and clubs. And one guy held a gun on me again, and I took my 9mm, and I fired it in the air. And the guy that hit me with the club, I stuck it right at his forehead, and I said, the next bullet's between your eyes. Now back off and leave me alone and get off my land. Well, what I didn't know was right behind the whole group were 7 cops that come with them. They wanted the land and the school or me to pay them $350,000. And the cops jumped up on the backhoe, and I shouldn't tell this to you good-blooded people, but your fearless leader is not always in the best frame of mind. I'm a human being, and I fight for what I believe in, and I fight for what's right. And I fought those 7 police officers, and I knocked 4 of them off the backhoe before 5 of the community people jumped up on with them and got my arms and got my gun out from under my leg where it stuck it under the seat and pinned me down and handcuffed me, and I was the only one arrested. 110 people came on my farm, beat 3 of my employees, trespassed, and threatened to shoot them and threatened to murder me, and I was the only one arrested and taken to jail. So that's what we were dealing with. Well, 3 people in that mob were parents of children in my school. The president of the community was in that mob, and it was all to take money. And so they hauled me off to jail. Mary called the attorney. He met me there, and 6 hours and $6,000 later, they released me. And I came back. So that morning I went to the school. I closed the school, locked the doors. The parents came, wanted to know why the school was being closed. And I says, tomorrow we're moving everything out of the school, the computers, the desk, everything. And I said, I'm burning the building. And I said, Doctor, you can't do this, you can't do this. And I said, yes, I can. It's my building, and I'm burning it to the ground. Because I said, I will not give it to you people, because it'll look just like the building across the street a year from now. And I said, I will not have it. Well, we want our children to go to school. And I said, no, you don't. I said, what happened yesterday tells me that you don't give a rip about the future of your children. It's about your bloody greed. And I said, that's all it is. And I said, I will have no part of it. And I said, if the farm is for sale, I said, the school will be burned to the ground tomorrow. And they just begged and begged and pleaded and pleaded. And I says, no, I'm not changing my mind now. Panchito, the man that walked up this hill with a gun, rallied the parents together, and they went and kicked the community president out of the community the next day. They called the national television, they called the president, President Carrera of this country, gave me an official apology. And then he ordered a proclamation in this community that if Dr. Young and his family or any of his workers were ever touched or ever disturbed again, they would go to prison for life.
Good. Yay! Oh, wow.
So 3 days later, I reopened the school. And it has been absolutely peaceful. I told Mary, I said, we should have had this experience 7 years ago. But again, it's about, it's about standing for what's right. And it's being willing to die for what's right. And, whether it's good sense or not, that's just the emotional part of me that kicks in. And when I get pushed, I fight. And if I didn't, we wouldn't have this. We wouldn't have what we have in other countries as well. You know, so I say this because I want all of you to know that God gave you a personality and gave you a temperament for a reason. And the object is learning how to use it to empower yourselves to accomplish what you want to accomplish and live your dreams and fulfill your dreams. Don't ever think that anger is a bad thing. God gave it to you to give you the strength to push beyond things that a lot of people would look at as impossible. And, you know, a lot of people say when you get angry, you lose your common sense. If you're not in control, you will. And that's the difference. Control that emotion because it was given to you for a reason. And you win every time. So that's just a little bit of 3 little things that took place here. Okay.
Whoa,
The
whoa.
block plant has a restroom. You might want everybody to know that when we get off there, there'll be a chance to use the restroom.
Okay, Jay said in the block plant there's a restroom. And once you're on the farm, we only give restroom breaks once a day, so you can pick whatever time of day you want to do that. It's okay with me. But now we're going to jump back on the buses. We're going to go to the nursery, and we'll do a walkthrough at the nursery. We've got the worm houses, the nursery, the show row, the goat dairy, all the little things there. Okay?